This loser weakling tries to save his sister from their abusive father and runs away, but is later rescued by a man who adopts and raises them. Soon enough, the once-weak failure boy becomes the most powerful demon hunter in the world. On a frigid evening, a girl named Suzune is forcibly taken to a storage shed by her father, who despises even looking at her. He regrets her very existence and intends to abandon her there for the entire night. However, just a few moments later, her brother Jinta rushes out in an attempt to rescue her, only to be stunned when he realizes she is missing. Panicked, he dashes through the village, desperately searching for Suzune, until he finally spots her crossing a bridge, seemingly leaving the village behind. He quickly approaches her, apologizing for failing to shield her from their father's cruelty, knowing that any attempt to protect her would only result in punishment for himself. Suzune was born with a demonic eye, and in feudal Japan, such a trait condemns her as an accursed being, treated as nothing more than a loathsome outcast. Aware that a normal life is impossible for her, she urges Jinta to return home without her. Jinta hesitates, torn between duty and love, but ultimately chooses his sister over the rest of their family. Taking her hand, he asks her to escape with him. Together, they abandon their old home, but the relentless rain continues to pour and the bitter cold intensifies. With no refuge in sight, Jinta leads Suzune to the remnants of a crumbling structure, where they huddle together, trying to share warmth. Exhaustion overtakes them, and Suzune drifts into slumber while Jinta, on the verge of passing out, catches sight of a stranger approaching. The man mutters something about taking them in, and before Jinta fully loses consciousness, he sees himself being lifted and carried along with Suzune. Walking beside him, the man feels relieved to see that Jinta has finally regained consciousness, so he sets him down, and they continue on their way until they reach the man's village. The settlement is primarily home to blacksmiths who specialize in crafting katanas, so everyone is currently busy at work. The man guides Jinta and Suzune to his home, and as soon as he opens the door, his daughter rushes out to welcome him. She is delighted to see him, but also intrigued by the two children standing behind him. The man explains that Jinta and Suzune will be living with them from now on. When he asks his daughter if she is all right with it, she appears overjoyed at the prospect, as it means she will have companions to play with. She approaches Jinta and introduces herself as Shirayuki, expressing her hope that the three of them will get along well. That night, Jinta struggles to fall asleep, prompting Motoharu to ask if something is bothering him. While polishing his blade, Motoharu listens as Jinta inquires whether he is a samurai. However, Motoharu clarifies that he is actually a sentinel, responsible for guarding significant individuals and locations. Later, Jinta and Suzune accompany Shirayuki and Chitose by the river. On the way back, Jinta asks about Shirayuki's mother, the one who allowed him and Suzune to remain in the village. Shirayuki explains that her mother is an Itsukime, a maiden of the fire god, and can only be seen by the village chief and her husband, Motoharu, her guardian. The following day, Jinta trains under Motoharu, but as a beginner in swordsmanship, he is effortlessly knocked down while Motoharu remains unfazed. Motoharu tells Jinta that he still has a long journey ahead, but if he persists in his training, he will undoubtedly become a master one day. As the years pass, Jinta assumes the role of the Shrine Maiden's new guardian, attending a crucial gathering with village leaders and the Shrine Maiden herself, who remains concealed behind a curtain to prevent direct sight. As the discussion commences, she praises Jinta for his remarkable skill in exterminating demons. He humbly responds that he is merely fulfilling his duty to protect the village, recounting his latest encounter with a demon that attempted to infiltrate the village by disguising itself as a human. One of the officials grows visibly uneasy upon hearing this, prompting the others to inquire about the possible motives behind a demon's attempt to sneak in. A council member proposes that the demon might have been targeting the Shrine Maiden, as ancient lore suggests that consuming a Shrine Maiden's liver grants a demon immortality. However, another possibility arises. The creature could have been seeking the sacred Yurai blade and heirloom passed down through generations of Shrine Maidens, revered for its immense significance. Another official points out that the Yurai sword was forged by one of history's most renowned blacksmiths and is believed to possess supernatural properties. If demons are indeed after the legendary blade, the village could be in grave danger. The chief urges everyone to stay alert, but Kivamasa insists there is no cause for concern, asserting that both he and Jinta are responsible for safeguarding the Shrine Maiden. However, he personally doubts Jinta's qualifications for the role. Just as tensions rise and the two are about to clash, the chief and the Shrine Maiden intervene, ordering them to settle down. With the meeting adjourned, the attendees exit the shrine, except for Jinta, who remains behind to continue his duty of guarding the Shrine Maiden. Now that they are by themselves, the Shrine Priestess steps out of her chamber, revealing herself to be Shirayuki. Jinta questions her actions, reminding her that a Shrine Maiden should not be seen so casually, but since they have been close companions for years, she disregards formalities. She informs him that Suzune is also present, though ordinary people are not permitted within the shrine, meaning she truly should not be there. Suzune appears unchanged from the past few years, and when Jinta and Shirayuki rouse her, she is overjoyed to reunite with her elder brother. Jinta has been so preoccupied with exterminating demons that he hardly ever sees her, and while he is also delighted, he reprimands Suzune for coming here since it is restricted territory. She fails to understand why she cannot visit Shirayuki, while Jinta is allowed to. What rules are rules, and Jinta instructs her to return home. Once Suzune departs, the chief soon arrives at the shrine, bearing an urgent matter to discuss with Shirayuki. He requests privacy, but Jinta initially refuses, as it is his responsibility as her guardian to stay by her side at all times. However, Shirayuki grants him a day off, so Jinta eventually yields and returns home. Meanwhile, beyond the village, two demons set their sights on Suzume due to her cursed eye. Later that evening, Shirayuki secretly slips out of the shrine to meet with Jinta, as she has something significant to share with him. When the chief spoke with her earlier, he advised that she should prioritize bearing in hair to take her place in case she perishes at the hands of demons. It may seem grim, but the chief is correct. Shirayuki must marry soon, and it has been decided that she will wed Kiyomasa primarily because he is the chief's son and will eventually inherit the role as village leader. Jinta is uncertain about how to process this revelation, and Shirayuki is equally displeased. She confesses that she loves Jinta and in truth sneaked out intending to ask him to escape with her and start anew. However, she knows he would never accept. Jinta swore an oath to protect the village and trained tirelessly to become strong enough to defend it, just as Shirayuki did when she pledged herself as the Shrine Maiden. If they were to flee now, it would undermine everything they have worked for. Time passes, and Jinta is once again summoned to a meeting, where he is informed of a demon sighting in the forest. Tasked with exterminating the creature, he promptly prepares to set out. Before he departs, Kiromasa intercepts him. Aware that Jinta must have heard about Shirayuki's engagement, he questions why Jinta seems so indifferent. Jinta replies that there is nothing to be upset over. His sole priorities are the protection of the Shrine Maiden and the village. Strangely, Kiromasa is not trying to boast about his impending marriage. He fully understands that both Jinta and Shirayuki are in love with each other, making the entire situation feel wrong. Yet Jinta has already made his choice, and without hesitation, he leaves to carry out his mission. As soon as he reaches the woods, Jinta is abruptly ambushed by the massive demon. Before the battle starts, he inquires whether the demon is alone, as the report had mentioned 2 demons in the area. The hulking demon clarifies that his companion had some matters to handle in the village. That doesn't sound promising, but Jinta knows he must take care of this opponent first before returning to face the other demon. He lunges forward and with a powerful strike manages to slice off one of the demon's arms. However, the demon continues its assault, forcing Jinta to retreat. Shockingly, the creature retrieves its severed limb, showing no signs of distress. Only admiration for Jinta's skill in cutting it off. Meanwhile, in the village, Suzune finds herself face to face with the 1000 Jiat demon, and sheer terror washes over her. The demon reassures Suzune that there's no need to be afraid because, like her, Suzune is also a demon. However, Suzune refuses to accept this claim. A single glance at Suzune tells the demon baddie that her affection for Jinta is preventing her from fully transforming into a demon. She finds this suffocating, as it must mean Jinta has showered Suzune with boundless love and care, shaping her into a kind-hearted individual. Suzune deeply adores Jinta, so hearing the demon praise him brings her comfort. Now that Suzune is no longer trembling in fear, the demon baddie attempts to persuade her to use her abilities for assistance, even vowing not to harm her. Since demons are incapable of lying, she insists that Suzune can trust her. Nevertheless, Suzune refuses, unwilling to take any risk that might lead to Jinta being harmed. The fiendish girl can't refute that, so she attempts another approach to persuade Suzune and presents her with a vision. The vision depicts Shirayuki disrobing and preparing to receive backshots within the shrine. Witnessing this makes Suzune feel ill, not because of the act itself, but because it wasn't Jinta delivering them. She questions the demon about the authenticity of what she saw, prompting the demon to clarify that her ability grants her foresight and allows her to share glimpses of the future with others, as Suzune just experienced. However, if Suzune remains skeptical, the demon offers to take her to the shrine immediately so she can witness it firsthand. Meanwhile, Jinta is still locked in combat with the hulking demon, but before resuming the battle, he demands to know why demons prey on humans. The demon responds that it is simply her inherent role. While demons aren't necessarily required to kill humans, each one has a designated purpose to fulfill. At this moment, the bulky demon's mission is to delay Jinta. His power of assimilation enables him to absorb the abilities of other demons through consumption. even granting him the ability to modify his body at will. Jinta cannot afford to hesitate, so he lunges forward, aiming to eliminate his foe once and for all. However, in an instant, his arm is severed by a devastating punch, and when he attempts to slice through the demon's neck, the creature crushes his blade between its fangs. By all logic, Jinta should be a dead man, but in a split-second move, he reaches back, snatches a shard of his broken sword, and drives it deep into the demon's heart before it can retaliate. With that, Jinta emerges victorious. The demon, rather than despairing, accepts his defeat with satisfaction. His purpose has been fulfilled. The demon explains that his companion possesses the ability to foresee the future and has gazed 170 years ahead. According to her prophecy, the most powerful demon in history resides in this place, which is why they arrived in the first place. The moment the demon mentions a demon dwelling in the village, Jinta immediately suspects he is referring to Suzune. However, before he can react, the demon declares that he will present Jam with a reward for his triumph. In an instant, the demon's severed arm seizes Jinta's head and squeezes tightly until he loses consciousness. Meanwhile, at the shrine, Kitomasa looms over Shirayuki, determined to conceive a child with her and finally put an end to the ordeal. With Jinta away on a mission, this is the perfect moment. Otherwise, Jinta would be forced to endure the sounds of Shirayuki being taken, and Kitomasa already feels guilty enough about the situation. However, before anything unfolds, the demon girl rips through the curtains, revealing the scene to Suzune, who is utterly shattered by what she witnesses. At the same time, Jinta regains consciousness in the forest and, inexplicably, finds that his missing arm has been restored. However, there is no time to dwell on this mystery. Suzune might be in danger, so he dashes back toward the village. Meanwhile, Suzune struggles to process what she just saw. It was already painful to watch Jinta love Shirayuki, but she endured it for the sake of his happiness. She even prevented herself from maturing, so she wouldn't interfere in their relationship. But now she has discovered that Shirayuki is set to marry another man. This revelation is the breaking point. Suzune loses control, driven to madness by sheer frustration over Shirayuki's betrayal of Jensen's love. After a few provocative remarks from the demon girl, Suzune resolves to end Shirayuki's life. Her dormant demonic power erupts, shrouding the entire room in thick black smoke as she transforms into an adult form. Kitomasa seizes the legendary blade and lunges at Suzune, but before he can strike, the demon girl effortlessly knocks him unconscious. Dragging Kitomasa's body outside for reasons of her own, she leaves Shirayuki alone with her. Soon after, Jinta arrives at the shrine, finding Shirayuki still alive. She dashes toward him, seeking comfort in his embrace, only for her head to be severed in an instant by Suzune. Jinta stands frozen, paralyzed by the horrifying sight, when Suzune suddenly materializes behind him, clutching Shirayuki's head. When Jinta demands an explanation, Suzune recounts the entire story of Shirayuki's arranged marriage to another man. However, Jinta already knew, and even if he hadn't, he argues that it never justified taking her life. Realizing that the Suzune he once cherished is long gone, and with Shirayuki now dead, Jinta feels nothing but pure hatred. The demonic arm begins assimilating into the rest of his body, completing his transformation as he glares at Suzune with absolute loathing. She doesn't understand why he despises her so much when all she wanted was to bring in happiness. Convinced that Jinta is going to abandon her like everyone else, Suzune decides to eliminate him as well. However, when she drives her weapon into his stomach, it barely wounds him. In response, Jinta retaliates by punching straight through her body. Though gravely injured, Suzune clings to life. As Jinta moves to finish her off, the demon girl intervenes, sacrificing herself to shield Suzune. Urging her to flee while she still can, Suzune staggers away. Before disappearing, she solemnly vows that she has nothing left in this world. No matter how long it takes, she swears to bring everything to ruin, and on the final day, she will return to kill Jinta for his betrayal. In 1850, a young woman greets a man named Zenji, who compliments her looks on a lovely morning. Another man jokes about Zenji's bold flirting. Cheerful as ever, Zenji laughs it off and heads back to his shop, where he apologizes to his boss for being late. The boss, unknown to Zenji, stands with someone named Jinta and asks Zenji to explain things to him. Zenji introduces himself, and the man reveals he's Jinta, a sentinel. Jinta says Juzu, who has an adopted daughter, fears a demon might harm her. Zenji is surprised the boss hasn't explained more, so he clarifies. Jinta is being hired to protect Natsu, Juzu's daughter, who claims a demon appeared at her window saying, "Return my daughter to me." They believe the demon sees Natsu as his child and wants to take her. Natsu then storms in, angry at Zenji for sharing her story. When she threatens to tell her father, Zenji pleads, while she complains the bodyguard seems too young. Jinta introduces himself, but Natsu dismisses him, thinking he's a scammer. Zenji insists her father personally chose Jinta. The young girl wants nothing to do with the idea of a Ronin as her protector, so her family refuses to pay for the man's help. As Natsu storms off, Zenji tries to brush it off, but it's pointless. Later that night, the boss's daughter sits on her bed, deep in thought, when Zenji approaches from the other side of the door, his shadow barely visible. Since she scared off the bodyguard, he decides to take on the role himself. Though she sees his bravery and kindness, she remains stubborn, accusing him of thinking she made everything up. Zenji doesn't deny it, and she assumes even her father doubts her, or else he wouldn't have hired a strange Ronin. Zenji calmly insists she's wrong. Her father truly cares and wants to keep her safe. With her head down, Natsu mutters that she's not really his daughter, but suddenly hears a terrifying voice in her head demanding her return. Zenji, confused, tries to figure it out, but then the dark entity appears before him, leaving no room for doubt. He quickly tells the girl to stay put as she peeks through the door at the eerie figure demanding its child. Despite his fear, Zenji tries to protect her, but the demon closes in and it's clear things will turn ugly. Just then, Jinta shows up and slices off the demon's right hand before it can touch him, calmly asking the creature for its name. The demon, desperate to reclaim its daughter, grows more enraged without a reply, prompting the warrior to split in half with his yurei after failing to get answers. Zenji blurts out something crude as Natsu opens the door to find the same Ronin, who bluntly asks about payment while she, still in shock, questions if the beast is truly dead. Jinta explains demons vanish into mist when killed, meaning it will return. The next day, Zenji thanks the Ronin and brings up the creature's return, hoping he'll stay close, and Jinta, intrigued by the demon's mention of a daughter, asks about Natsu. Zenji clarifies she's the adopted daughter of the boss, her real parents from his extended family having died, and since a demon killed the boss's wife and drove his son away, he'd never raise a demon's child. Later, Juzu dines with his daughter, checks if she's fine with her new bodyguard. Natsu says yes, adding that while he has a bad rep, he doesn't seem like a true villain. Natsu appreciates her father's care and trusts his judgment, while Juzu believes any good parent would have done the same. When she asks why he hired that specific man, he explains there have been rumors of demons in Ido, and also of a swordsman, the Ronin, who can slay them. Confident in the Ronin's skills, Juzu considers him the best choice. Natsu is relieved to see her father believes her about the demon. At dawn, they share a warm moment. She reflects on how horror tales like Chimamoreo, ogres, or the cow's head legend don't scare her. She recalls the maid's gossip about their boss, who lost his wife to a demon and had his son taken by another. Still, he hopes the boy will return, which is why he adopted a girl instead. That night, Natsu thinks the scariest thing is often the plain truth. She enters the room where Zenji and Jinta are on watch, asking Zenji why he's there. He jokes he wants to redeem himself for yesterday's mistake and make a name for himself. Seeing she's not impressed, he figures she's still upset, but Natsu says she'll forgive him if he takes her somewhere cool. Zenji boldly insists he can handle the mission. Natsu, amused, asks his name and jokingly calls him Jinta. She says her father respects him, so she decided to trust him. Jinta points out how much she values her father's opinion, and she says it's because he saved her. He assures her that her father cares too, that mentions Juzu's missing son. Natsu snaps, shouting she knows nothing about that runaway. Jinta apologizes, and Natsu suddenly asks if humans can have children with demons. He says yes, which makes her wonder if she's part demon. But Jinta says she's not, since he knows the demon personally. He explains demons are born in various ways, naturally, by force, or from intense emotions like hate or envy. As he speaks, one forms in front of them, an emotion turned into flesh. The demon focuses only on Natsu, so her bodyguard restrains it, thinking it can't speak. Jinta asks if she wants it dead, warning it will return if not. It was born from Natsu's desperate need for her father's full attention, her desire to be seen as his real daughter. Now a demon mimics that fantasy. Overwhelmed, Natsu begs Jinta to stop, though she knows how terrifying it is. He tells her killing it won't help, it's tied to her, and she must confront it. Panicked, she asks how. He says she just has to say the word. Natsu realizes she hid from pain, all to be loved. Believing her father didn't love her, she thought only a demon daughter could earn his attention. That pain gave the demon form. So to destroy it, she thinks she must destroy herself. Zenji disagrees, saying that's nonsense. The love she shares with her father is what truly matters. Since neither is good at sharing feelings, Natsu tries to open up. Crying, she asks Jinta to slay the demon. As he draws his sword, she promises to release her past. The Ronin swiftly ends the battle and white mist dissolves the beast. Natsu rests while Jinta stands guard, noticing hints the creature may return. If it was born from her pain, it should have vanished. He recalls another woman like Natsu and Zenji's story about Juzu's wife dying to a demon. The beast's cry for its daughter may reflect deeper sorrow, perhaps the child Yuzu's wife had. Thinking of his own sister, Jinta regrets their reunion happening this way. He asks the demon's name again, no answer. Believing people must let go of the past, he delivers the final blow. As the mist rises, he softly says, "Mother." The next day, Zenji and Natsu thank him, but Jinta says it was just repaying a debt. He reflects that age doesn't equal wisdom. Time helps us see things clearer. As a child, he didn't understand that wrong acts can have hidden reasons. That guilt stayed. When Natsu admits confusion, he simply tells her to honor her father's kindness. Then he leaves, Juzu appears, and though Zenji wishes he'd said goodbye, Juzu says he trusted his son. Zenji is stunned, but Juzu brushes it off. Natsu then offers help, saying she wants to return his kindness. Juzu replies that just living is enough. Meanwhile, Jinta watches the falling leaves, smiles, and moves on. In 1853, inside a modest eatery, the cook complained about increasingly hostile foreign ships near Japan while the emperor remained inactive. A silent waitress grabbed a plate to serve Jinta, their lone customer. The owner, praising Ofu's dedication, nervously mentioned a rumored killer on the loose and wished the emperor would finally take action. Jinta thought the owner should be more careful with his words, and the man agreed. He didn't want the place to burn down just 10 days after buying it cheap from the previous owner. Curious why Jinta kept returning when few others did, the owner joined him, asking for his opinion on the soba. Jinta said it was decent but plain. Laughing, the owner admitted he cooked out of love, not skill. When Jinta asked why he opened a restaurant, the man simply said life was complicated, and judging by Jinta's expression, he wasn't the only one with a rough past. After the meal, Jinta quietly agreed to cover the cost, handing over 16 man. The owner commented that Jinta seemed wealthy for a ronin and asked how he made money. Jinta calmly replied that he hunted demons. The cook chuckled, thinking it was a joke, but Jinta simply nodded and stood to leave. Before he could go, the owner mentioned a demon slayer said to never use a sword. Victims found torn apart, their numbers not matching the missing, leading some to believe the killer was a demon. Jinta asked where it happened, and the cook said Adabashi. Ofu, concerned, told him to be careful after dark. He brushed it off, claiming he was too old for warnings, to which she replied that saying that just proved otherwise. That night, under the moon, Jinta waited at Adabashi docks for the demon. But when nothing happened, he turned to leave until a woman's scream echoed. He rushed to Shianbashi Bridge and found a grisly scene. 3 dead men in the dark. No one was around. As he examined the bodies, all male, he remembered the scream sounded like a woman's. Suddenly, a sharp pain cut across his stomach. No one in sight. He blocked another invisible strike but took a worse hit to the back. Bleeding but steady, Jinta muttered that the demon had a rare ability. With no one watching, he revealed his own monstrous form. When the enemy slipped on blood, Jinta shattered his blade mid-swing to land a brutal katana blow. The wounded attacker appeared and begged for mercy. Jinta asked his name before finishing him. The demon Mosuke said he thought Jinta was behind the murders. He tracked the scent, believing the killer was a demon too. When Jinta asked why a demon would hunt another, Mosuke offered to explain in private and led him to a hidden home, shifting into human form to talk. Mosuke said that some elder demons take on human appearances and quietly blend into everyday life. Though demons don't lie, they often withhold truths, just like people such as Jinta. Handing him a cheap drink, Mosuke assured it wasn't laced. Jinta, unfazed, said poison wouldn't harm him and drank, trying to keep things civil. Mosuke described himself as a poor alley dweller, and Jinta noted he was a demon who managed to go unnoticed despite lacking strength. Mosuke confessed his high rank came from a rare ability, not power. Rank didn't mean much in a real fight. Still, Jinta decided to trust him, unsure why Mosuke hadn't attacked if he truly suspected him. Mosuke said his grudge was personal. The entire neighborhood was aware of the kidnappings. Jinta remembered hearing a woman scream once, though he never saw her. Mosuke revealed the killer murdered men and abducted women, including his wife, Hatsu. She had loved him despite his nature, then vanished a month ago. Her body was found 10 days later by the river, violated and discarded. She hadn't deserved such a fate. Hatsu was warm, loved by many, and even accepted Mosuke as a demon. He hadn't tried to fit in for society's sake, only to be with her. Now all he had left was hatred for her killer. He asked Jinta to back off, vowing to take revenge himself. But Jinta refused. It was his duty to hunt demons. Seeing he wouldn't stand down, Mosuke proposed they search separately, but stay in touch. He only asked to be the one to finish it. Jinta then questioned if revenge was what Mosuke truly needed, not to doubt him, but because vengeance wouldn't lift the burden. Mosuke replied that demons never lie, and not even to each other. So they began the search together. Days passed without progress. One evening, drained, they returned to Masuke's place. Over drinks, Masuke asked why Jinta hunted his own. Jinta's answer was simple: it paid well, and people were eager to see demons dead. Masuke understands that Jinta never acts without purpose and wouldn't question Gina's intentions, not while enjoying free drinks. But something unexpected happens. Jinta, or who he once was, laughs. When Masuke asks if there's more to it, Jinta admits he's seeking power to stop a specific demon. Asked if that means killing, Jinta reveals he was human once, but after witnessing a demon murder the woman he loved, he changed. Killing demons now feels instinctive, though he avoids confirming it. Masuke presses again: will he actually kill it? Jinta reflects on his time at shrine with his sister, saying he'll decide when the time comes. However, he will need power. Then he turns the question: what will Masuke do after revenge? Masuke admits there's nothing left for him. He became human because he despises violence and doesn't want to fight or be hunted, just peace. If not with his wife, then perhaps in accepting solitude. As Junior listens, he recalls Masuke's belief that Jinta never acts without reason, but now he wonders if he was wrong. Jinta seems entirely driven by hatred. The next day, Jinta goes to his usual soba shop in Kadona village. Ofu, the waitress, asks if he's caught the demon, though Jinta doesn't remember telling her about his hunt. She explains he hinted at it when talking about his demon-slaying job. Surprised, Jinta admits he hasn't had much luck lately. The cook jokes that everyone's struggling. Jinta shifts the topic, complimenting Ofu's kindness and suggesting she should have a line of customers, but people in Aido are tight on time and money. Her father jumps in, teasing Jinta to take an interest in Ofu. She's never even had a date. Ofu quickly says she'll leave when she's ready, but for now, she enjoys being her dad's daughter. Apologizing if it's awkward, Jinta reassures her and says her father seems like a good man. She then gently asks if Jinta feels the same about his own father. He shares that he has a younger sister, Suzune, and their father used to beat her, claiming she didn't belong. One day, Jinta ran away with her. They were just kids. Ofu asks if he hates his father. He answers no, understanding him. Except for one thing, life doesn't always go as planned. Just before dusk, the two agents met to share updates, but the mission had gone nowhere, no leads at all. Then Masuke noticed something and pointed it out. Jinta saw Ofu outside tending plants and explained to Masuke she was just someone from his favorite restaurant. Jinta decided to say hello. Ofu admired the move and asked if he was alone, and Jinta realized Masuke had vanished. A whisper in his ear revealed Masuke had turned invisible to avoid interfering with Jinta walking Ofu home. No one wanted her to risk being taken. Jinta kept calm and asked why she was out. She said she came to see the cherry blossoms, correcting him when he mistook a tree for a willow. The flower she held was called snow willow. It looked like a willow in snowfall, but was really a cherry blossom. Jinta found it confusing, a blossom pretending to be a willow yet not quite either. Still, Ofu thought it was beautiful. She said it didn't need pity, it bloomed each spring without fail. Jinta laughed and called it the ninja of flowers, making her smile. In the end, he offered to walk her home, saying her dad was probably worried. While they walked, Ofu suggested Jinta should take some time for himself, noting he was being too hard on himself. Jinta agreed, though he felt this burden was his to bear, a mission he'd lived for all his life. Even so, Ofu believed life would be too bleak without moments of rest. Jinta couldn't see beyond his purpose, though he didn't admit it. Instead, he apologized and said he couldn't follow her advice. They are paused by some Daphne odora flowers, which bloom in spring after storing energy through fall and winter. Jinta enjoyed the scent while Ofu explained they symbolized spring's arrival. Nearby, some pittosporum herbs reminded Jinta of the soup used for healing in Kadona village where he grew up. A childhood friend who overindulged in sweets often drank it. Jinta let her lead the way in life. Ofu joked she must have been special, and Jinta agreed. She then realized he wasn't as narrow-focused as he thought. He loved soba, admired flowers, and treasured memories. But he'd become so consumed by duty, he missed the beauty around him. That's why she told him to slow down. After all, flowers bloom everywhere. He just hadn't noticed yet. Later, when they reached Ofu's house, Jinta saw the lights on and assumed her father was up waiting. He knew some parents could be overprotective. Ofu admitted as much. She wondered why Jinta had seemed so worried about getting her home, though she didn't expect an answer. They smiled and parted, with Jinta asking her to teach him more flower names someday. After she left, Masuke appeared, praising her. Jinta nearly complained about his eavesdropping, but Masuke urged him to keep looking into Tsujijiri. Later that night, Jinta saw a drunk man stumbling across a bridge, followed by a woman who blushed at Ginga. But the mood shifted when the drunk was suddenly killed by a hidden evil. The creature revealed itself in the moonlight and attacked Jinta. whose defensive blow barely scratched its stone-like skin. The girl, shocked, was told by the Ronin to stay back unless she wanted to die. In the next attack, Jinta hit its fangs, but again did no harm, and the blow knocked him away, leaving her exposed. She had indeed been attacked, but Moshike used his invisibility to shove her to safety. Jinta counterattacked, landing a few blows, but Unifame Yara couldn't break through the creature's tough hide. After a short clash, the demon escaped into the sky as if climbing invisible steps. Despite its power, Moshike believed they could track it down. Jinta warned him not to go too far, but Moshike insisted he wasn't ready to die and asked Jinta to watch over the girl. The Ronin helped her up when she said she couldn't stand. Once steady, she admitted his cold attitude brought back memories and was surprised he didn't recognize her. Looking closer, Jinta realized it was Natsu, Juzu's daughter, now grown after 3 years. She noted he hadn't changed, and he agreed he didn't age easily. He asked if she often wandered around at that hour. She said no, she had just finished a delivery. Impressed by her responsibility, Jinta praised her maturity and genuine smile. Blushing, she thanked him, realizing she had outgrown childhood. Suddenly, a man emerged from the shadows, teasing the girl for still being a tomboy, startling her. He revealed himself as Zenji, and Jinta smiled, happy to see his old friend. Zenji mentioned that Miss Natsu had been attacked by the Tsujijiri. Alarmed, he protected the girl and called for the guards, while Jinta explained he'd been tracking the assassin and the attack was likely random. Still, if Natsu needed help, she should find the Ronin in a Fukubawa restaurant. His fee would be lower this time. As Jinta left, Zenji urged him to go to Yanaka, where a haunted temple named Mizuho stood. Locals claimed a demon lived there. Meanwhile, Moshike chased the fleeing monster, thinking he'd lost it, until he heard a woman scream. Spotting the Tsujijiri carrying a victim, Mosuke was overwhelmed by memories of his wife's murder by the same beast. Consumed by rage, he ran to Mizuho Temple, cloaked himself, and found the creature devouring the woman. Though he meant to get Jinta, the horrific sight drove him to attack with full fury. Moshike's recklessness led to a brutal attack by the beast, its fangs piercing deep. Realizing the severity of his wound, he feared death, hatred still burning inside him. After devouring the woman's head, the Tsujijiri ignored him, assuming he'd die soon. Moshike, feeling useless, managed a bitter smile. Later, Jinta arrived at the ruined temple to find his friend barely alive. Moshike gave him a dagger from Kadono, said to slay demons, and asked him to avenge his wife. Jinta agreed, but requested Moshike's power in return. Honoring his friend's wish, Moshike transferred his strength, allowing Jinta to connect with his inner turmoil. Amid the agony, Jinta saw memories of love between Moshike and his wife Hatsu, who had accepted his true nature without fear. As Moshike faded like dust, Jinta vowed to carry out his will. Meanwhile, the Tsujijiri pondered its existence, knowing only that it was born to destroy men, driven by a hunger it couldn't explain. For reasons unknown, Tsujijiri had to return soon, though it didn't know where. One thing was clear, it couldn't go back in its current form. Just hours earlier, it had abducted a woman named Yunaji, likely a former courtesan, judging by her clothes, and still needed to feed on her to satisfy its demonic hunger. Suddenly, a voice challenged its presence and an unseen force tore off its arm. Jinta, watching, noted the demon not only looked like a beast, but thought like one, lashing out wildly as it searched for its foe, nearly collapsing the temple. Dodging every blow, Jinta realized he wasn't the only one fighting it. His own demonic arm formed as he vowed invisibility would end this monster. Believing its enemy also fed on humans, Tsujijiri was easily beheaded by the Ronin. Its head, still alive, writhed on the ground. Approaching it, Jinta demanded the truth, having long suspected that the number of victims and missing persons in this case didn't add up. The monster appeared to kill men instantly and take women to the temple to devour them, which explained the odd victim count. Yet something was off. Mochike's wife was found whole. If the beast was the same one he'd been hunting, why was her body still intact? Earlier, the Tsujijiri had said Jinta also consumed bodies, which he admitted, but only those of greedy demons, not women. Jinta even grabbed the creature's head, intrigued by its power. It had the reincarnation ability, allowing bursts of speed and mid-air movement. Still, Jinta didn't understand its heart until he entered the beast and saw a memory. A girl, abused and tossed into a river, desperate to return to someone. When Jinta asked who she was, the demon replied, Hatsu. She had promised Moshike she'd return. Gently, Jinta laid her head down. She had only wanted to go home. The next morning at his usual restaurant, the owner noted Jinta hadn't been by since, joking about marrying Ofu. Ofu had run into Jinta recently, and he'd said he'd come back once his work was done. Her father mentioned the Tsujijiri case was finally over, meaning Jinta was likely finished. But Ofu remembered Jinta saying demons still remained. That night, two men stalked the streets seeking a new victim, ideally a married woman relishing her terror. They laughed about a past victim who screamed, "Moshike." Suddenly, Jinta appeared, silently beheading one and cutting down the other. Then he said to Moshike, his promise had been kept. If you're enjoying the journey of this series, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.